What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're out here again, quarantine weekends, working on the Packard. So what I'm going to do in this video is I have the tires that I want to run on this car. So I'm going to fit those up and measure for the wheels. So I'm going to have to measure back spacing and width and stuff like that. So here we go. We got the Packard. The rockers are all primed and on there. Remember in the last video, this is the corner I was having such a problem with. So it's there. The inside of the car is now full of Bondo dust, but that's it for sheet metal work on this girl. The only thing that I'm going to do is I might replace part of the trunk floor, and then I'm going to pour 15 the rest of the inside of this thing, at least the wheel wells. I'm probably not going to do the roof, but I'm going to clean that up a little bit. So yeah, this is what we got going on. The brakes are hooked back up, the throttle pedal's back in, but I need someone to help me bolt it to the floor, so waiting on someone to come give me a hand with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the tires that I'm going to run on this thing. I'm going to get the wheels off of it, and I have the lift set up so it'll set pretty close to the ground because I am going to bag this thing, so I want to get the tire up in the wheel well the best that I can in order to kind of get an idea of offset and whatnot. So let me grab the tires, we'll get the wheels off this thing and see what it looks like. Okay, so here's what we've got. These are some takeoffs from cars that I've worked on up at RPM. So in the rear, we have some Goodyear Eagles 305 30/20. In the front, also Goodyear Eagle F1s 285 30/20. So this is the size tire that I want to put on that. So let me get these old wheels off and we'll shove these things up under there and lower it down to the ground. Alright, so now that we have the Packard down low-ish, I'm going to shove the tires under there and lower the car the rest of the way down and see what it looks like. All right, so this is about as low as I can get it because the suspension won't compress anymore. So the drums, front and rear, are actually sitting in the tire. But yeah, this is kind of the look I'm going for. I think it would be pretty rowdy. So the measurements that I have to take are mainly going to be for back spacing. So what I really need to do, now that I know the tire fits up in there, is get this thing at ride height and then start taking some measurements. So 305 in the back, 285 in the front. Even if I lose some turning radius, I'm okay with that because this tire is huge and it looks really good in there. So I'm gonna lift it back up, get it at what I would call ride height and start taking some measurements. Okay, so we're on the ground here with our trusty tape measure. And basically what I wanna do is I want to keep the tire as close to the inside of the quarter panel as possible. So I'm actually going to butt it up against the inside of the quarter like this, and then I'm going to measure to see how far back the mounting flange is from the tire. Alright, so I've got a piece of angle iron. What I'm going to do is put this on where the wheel is actually going to mount, missing all these rivets and everything else. So if I measure from the bead lip to the bead lip, I'm right at 12 inches. So if I come over here, I'm right at 5.5 for back spacing. So now what I need to do is I'm going to put Detroit steel wheels on this. So I'm going to go to their website and see what kind of offsets they offer real quick and kind of get an idea of where I want to be. Alright, so I have the tire positioned to where I want it. And according to their website, I'm going to want a 20 by 11. So now I can measure here, and we're at a 6-inch back spacing. So I'm going to go write all this down. Okay, now in the front, things are going to be a little bit more complex because we have to be able to turn, of course. So what I did is I set it up on this styrofoam block so that I can turn the wheel and the drum will move, and then I can spin the tire and kind of see what kind of clearance I'm going to have. Ride height is kind of hard to get situated here because the suspension's unloaded. So I'm going to put a jack stand under the lower control arm and try to compress the suspension on this side a little bit, just to give me a little bit better idea of where I'm going to be. Alright, because we have such a heavyweight spring in the front of this thing, I can't get the suspension to compress even when I let all the weight down on the lower control arms. So we're going to do something a little scary and kind of guess at this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a tape line like this. To kind of give me an idea of where straight across is. Now this isn't really for measurement, this is more for looks. So I know if I pull the tire out like that, it's still going to be tucked behind the fender front and rear. So that's the look I'm going for, while having it stick out as far as I can. So now what I need to do is get a plumb bob and hang it from the inner lip here and let it hang down. And that's going to make sure that the tire, when it tucks, is going to fit inside the fender well here. So I don't have a plumb bob, but what I do have is a pair of vice grips and some string, which will work just the same. So I'm going to pull this up here, and that's about where the fender protrudes into the wheel well the furthest. So I still have room to the tire here, so this looks like where I'm going to want my offset to be. So I'll go ahead and measure for that. So right there is 6.5. And I think that's going to work pretty good. I'm just going to stand back, look this way. Looks like the tire's tucked in there nice. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the car down to where the drum is just touching the bottom of the tire and measure my back spacing again and see what it looks like. Alright, so what I'm looking at right now is how much space I have behind the tire on both sides. Now I wanted to run a really wide tire up front, but I don't really want to lose drivability. And what I mean by that is turning radius. So what I might do is grab a different tire, like a 265, that I could put on a 9-inch wheel and try that, because right now I'm going to have to run a 10-inch wheel up front to fit this tire good, which is big. So before I order these, I'm going to get a different tire and recheck the front of this. Now, if you guys have followed the channel, you know the goal was to get this thing up and running again and be able to move it under its own power. So I'm going to go ahead and throw the wheels back on it. We'll see if I can fire this thing up and pull it outside under its own power. Alright, so under the hood here, I've been making adjustments to the carburetor, and it actually runs pretty good. I did kind of put a little cheesy starter switch out here so I can be here and work the throttle linkage because, like I said, the gas pedal isn't hooked up inside the car yet. So I have my fuel tank, fuel pump. So we'll go ahead and fire this thing up real quick and get it to idle down, and then I'll hop in it and hopefully back it out of here. Alright, so there you go. Moves under its own power. So I'm going to get the battery tender back on it because it doesn't have an alternator or a generator right now. And I'm going to clean up the shop, bring it back inside. And that's going to do it for this video, guys. I'm going to go ahead and order these wheels, I think. Test fit a little bit smaller tire up front, see if it looks any better. But they're about 6 to 8 weeks out before I can get them. So I'm going to order them now. That way I'll have them when I'm ready for them, I hope. Don't forget, guys, follow me on Instagram. I try to post up there daily, and there's always high PSI TV merchandise. The link in the description below. I want to thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.